But there are a few other super volunteers from these grassroots at fully staffed campaign offices, keeping them open during normal business hours. These grassroots efforts are important, they're very important, but this is not what we're going to talk about today. During the remaining of the election cycle, the grassroots get involved in many other ways. They host house parties, they table at county fairs and other events. They do all kinds of outreach within their precincts, their district, and their community. During this period, we find the super volunteers acting as precinct leaders. They populate the district executive committee and even provide party leadership. This too is important, but again, this is not what we'll be talking about here today. The folks we will hear today are super volunteers who tackle the pressing issues of our time. They are activists whose purpose is to directly affect the political system. In most cases, this activism involves them for 5 or more hours a week. Thus, we're dubbing them with the moniker 5+ activist, or the 5+ air, pronounced 5+ air. They may or may not self-identify with a political party. They may or may not self-identify with activist movements such as the Tea Party or Invisible. They may not identify with national organizations such as Represent Us or Wolfpack. In fact, most will start out alone or with 1 or 2 friends and work up from there. These are the super volunteers we'll be hearing from today. One of the fundamental obligations of the party is to somehow intuitively define the will of the people and publish it as a party platform. What better way to do this than tapping into the thoughts of those citizens most interested in this issue? Indeed, why couldn't the outposts of these grassroots organizations provide a first draft for the party platform? It is with this vision that we will ultimately benefit in the success of the independent efforts of the 5+ Ayers out there, if only we can figure out how to hear them. We are here today to ask how. Who brings what to the table and what can the other expect? Today we have invited several 5+ Ayers that have been active right here in North Dakota to address us. And as it happens, most of them are active party members, so you probably recognize their names. And we've asked them to divert from their passions and address their process instead. They will give you a very brief idea of what they're doing and how they're doing it. But better still, we've asked them to tell what they would need to do it better. And so to begin with, I will hand it over to Patrick Hart and the U.S. of the Conference Technology and Leadership Calls.
Thank you for that. Hello, my name is Patrick Hart. I currently hold a couple positions within the party. The first is the chair for District 30, which is in South Bismarck. North Dakota has 47 districts. I've been with District 30 for about 4 years now. I've held positions with secretary, volunteer, and now finally chair. Beyond the secretary or the chair position in District 30, I'm also vice chair at the Bisman Dems and regional rep, in which North Dakota has 7 regions, and I represent one of them, Bismarck again. And currently running for chair of the state party. So I guess as far as people in the room, you could say that I'm an establishment now. Felt long and hard about candidacy, but the longer I think about it, the more I think that I'm a party people, and I want to build and grow this, democratic, nonpartisan league. One thing that I've identified over the course of the years is that there is limited to no communication from what's happening in the Kennedy Center, which is headquarters, or corporate as I call it, and what's getting disseminated out to the district level, and further out to the constituent level. Since there's this extreme lack of communication, I have a couple people within the party that are paid staffers that I regularly, routinely call on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, to find out what's going on. And in the course of these phone calls, we decided that if I'm calling my contact every day, 2 times a day, to figure out what's up with the new Firehouse Caucus method. There's probably 47 other districts that have absolutely no idea what's going on. Because I have spent several years working for corporate organizations who are very routine use of conference calls for communication, we decided to set one of those up for ourselves. For the past year and a half, we've had conference calls on a bi-weekly level that get sent out to the executive and the policy committee, which is approximately 150 people. And really the purpose of these calls is to try to get everyone tied into the same page. What I found across North Dakota is that we have very active, very tight-knit districts who consistently are able to re-elect Democrats. And we have other districts that are very segmented, very broken, fractured, that can't seem to get an agenda out or have a meeting to save their lives. And kind of bridging that gap, getting Williston connected to Fargo, getting Cavalier connected to Bowman, is really serves a couple different purposes. For one, it expands all of our knowledge. It allows us to share, really the change agents and the change agent information that active people who run good parties, good programs, can really connect with the segmented few who are just trying to scramble to get a bank account set up. Throughout the course of the 18 months or so that we've been doing these calls, we've focused on statewide candidates. Right now, a session's happening, and the last several calls have focused on legislators speaking to their accomplishments in the House and the Senate. As session's coming to a close, I imagine that these calls are going to start focusing on party building, what districts needs to do. There was recently district reorganization statewide, and we're coming up on a state reorganization, and there's a lot of new people with a lot of energy, quite frankly, are spinning their wheels because they don't have direction. Really, the purpose of these calls is to communicate where to go, how to do it, and to really share district leadership manuals to share things that are as simple as putting a calendar together so you know when you're going to do your donation ask by the mail, when you're going to have a barbecue, when you're going to have a watch party, and things as simple as a calendar somehow get lost along the way. And just coming together for a conference call every 2 weeks helps people get accountable. Really, the purpose of this, when it started, was to bridge the communication gap between corporate and the districts. And I think really what happened is corporate fell out of the fold, and the districts have really come together, and we've decided that we are the state party. There's virtually no support staff from the headquarters that help us in any way. And really, we're on our own to build our district and to help get candidates elected. And I'm not complaining about that. I'm just simply stating that if the Dem MPL in the state is going to function and move forward, we have to be a cohesive team to do this. So that's really, I guess, my action. I'm really glad that Tom said 5 hours a week. Some weeks are 10 or 15 hours getting speakers for these calls, simply doing the calls, getting notices out. Takes a tremendous amount of time. I'm glad to do it. I have people call me up and they say, hey, I heard you're the guy. And I put on my pants one leg at a time like we all do, but something that I felt a need for. And instead of just feeling a need and saying, I wish someone would do it, I just jumped into action and got it done. That's really what I think we need to do to build this party going forward, is people that quit complaining that someone's not doing it need to jump into action. They need to get involved. They need to just be the solution that they seek. So I appreciate the time to come here and talk about this today. We're going to have a call next Monday, and I hope everyone, if you see this, you can make it. We are stronger together, and really my message for everyone is that if you're not involved, you should be. We have a hard time meeting quorum at a lot of meetings. We have a hard time getting delegates to go to the state convention, and we just, quite frankly, need anyone to show up. I've been asked this week in my, I would say my chair, my state chair run, my campaign, a lot of questions about should we let fossil fuel workers be part of the party? What about discrimination against men and women? And you know what? I think if you're going to show up to a meeting, you should get a voice. I don't care who you sleep with, I don't care who you work for, I don't care what color your skin is. We gotta have people start showing up to these meetings. And then quite frankly, we need to start treating them right. You know, people come here for a plethora of reasons, and quite frankly, I really don't care what they are. I want people to come, I want people to be involved, I want people to have a voice, because really I think that's what politics should be. And I would invite you to do so. So thank you for the time to talk. I'll hand it back to Charles, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. You know, one thing, I'm from District 10, about as far away as sometimes I feel we can be from the center of the activity, and I really appreciate your bi-weekly calls. I look forward to them very much. Next, I'd like to introduce Scott Nordland, and he'll be talking on the power of the URL websites. Scott?
Hi, folks who are here, hardcore 5-plussers.
We'll edit that out.
I think that's. I think 5+ for me is understatement. I do that much most days of the week, and I guess the place I should start is I initially got involved in my activism by being an administrator of the site called Occupy Seattle, with about 50,000 followers. And what Occupy did was it functioned as an umbrella organization that pulled into it all kinds of activist organizations, environmental, organizations against unfair incarceration and criminal justice reform, many different kinds of activist organizations. Anyway, in that role, we were posting together. There was a small group of us that was working, but we were posting one article or one piece per hour every day from until midnight. And we scheduled those, and we functioned as a group who made decisions about what was going to get posted. And we had interns who came to and worked for us, with us. We were that powerful. On the East Coast, it was New York, and on the West Coast, it was San Francisco and Seattle. So I had some great training in that, technical aspects, strategic aspects, all kinds of things. And the next thing I did with that was I did my own little retreat for writers, and I promoted it for 4 months, and I was able to attract 100 people who paid $1,000 each, doing in the space of 4 months, and then there was a writer's retreat. And so I got some very good understandings about how to market. This is all social media, $0 budget. And I learned more about social media marketing. And then I did some other things. For example, I worked in social media in Indonesia. And when I came to Bismarck, I launched myself by putting together a group of web page or Facebook groups that all did progressive politics, and it wasn't party, but it was progressive. And I was able to get 100 to 200 people in Minot, in Fargo, in Grand Forks, in Bismarck, using this web of Facebook groups. And I also set up another group called Lean Left, Move Forward that has today about 900 people. But that started in a living room with about 30 of us one evening, in a let's get together for Bernie dinner, I guess, or buffet or
Potluck.
Thank you, potluck. So Anyway, those 35 people have grown now into over 850 people. And what I've been able to do with those people is pull them into a smaller group of people who have done many other things, like we did dinner parties, we did phone banking, we did canvassing, we did fundraisers, many things. We put together a little group with costumes and marched in a parade. We did all of these things for candidates, not just Bernie, but other state level candidates in the 2016 election. So, but I've also been able to, through those connections, I've been able to make other connections, and I've been able to, for example, put together, edit videos and promote those across. I could do a video in a couple of hours, and I can put those up on 30 sites very quickly, like in the space of, altogether in the space of like 3 hours. That's not the 5+ hours, but it's, in 3 hours I can reach. So for example, I just did one last week and reached 1,700 people viewed the video that I put together. So it's a message. So I have a bullhorn, and I have an ability to reach people this way. One of the things, the directions I would like to take this kind of activism or messaging would be to, for example, create a small army of petition gatherers who could do referendums on behalf of the Nonpartisan League. A referendum is basically it's a recall of bills that are really bad, and from the time those bills get passed until the time we have to have collected 13,425 signatures is about 3 months. And so we need to have a standing army ready to go out and get those signatures. And it's doable, and it's doable in 3 months if we have enough people that are trained and willing to go there. That's one example of one of the things I would like to be able to do. And if the NPL had a little more money, had more people involved, we might be able to take this to the next level, for example. How am I doing on time? Good?
Good.
Okay.
I'd say about 2 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
You got-
So, anyway, I think that when I look at the NPL as it stands today, there is really no venue there for someone like me or someone like these 5+ hours, these 5+ers. There's not really an online place for us to go. So as it stands, we have to build our own networks, and we have to do our own, create our own crowds and followers. And it has nothing to do with the Dem NPL because we can't. Because when we ask for participation, it's not there. Because when we try to go to a venue of the Dem NPLs, it's not there. So this would be a second thing I believe would be important for a guy who's standing up here talking about the power of the URL. This would be an important direction for us to go. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I guess, once again, I'll refer to my District 10. We cover an area of about 3,600 square miles, and we really need to use the URLs and the websites in order to help us reach out and touch everybody. Our next guest is Dustin Pryor on using social media events and district email standardization. Dustin?
Thank you. I'll just need a couple minutes here. I'm going to use the projector.
You can go ahead and turn your podium, Dustin. That way you can see both ways. You can turn it. There you go. That way you can look both ways and stay.
How are you? Good to see you.
Hey, where have you been?
Yep.
All right, so my name is Dustin Pyre. I am the outspoken chair of District 28. I'm also the vice chair of the Nonpartisan League, and I also have my own sole proprietor political action committee called Real Indie News. So just kind of want to show you guys our Facebook page here for a minute. It's pretty standard, pretty easy. We have some history from the NPL in there. But what we do is we create events on here, and if you go into past events, you'll see things like NPL Loggers for Leaguers special event. That's when we came together with Our Revolution and my other PAC called Real Indie News. We had over 30 people there talking about the future of North Dakota. So a pretty good event, and that was this last week. Every week, let's see, I'm going to pull up our other Facebook so I can have both of them. We have a group called Leaguers for Loggers, and we do something similar on there with events. But if you have a group, you can make what's called a reoccurring event. So every week during the session, we have all got together on Wednesday nights, and we talk about the session, and we talk about, sorry, this computer's so slow, and we talk about what we can do to help our two endorsed and elected legislators, which is Ruth Buffalo and Marvin Nelson, and we try to support them in any way that we can. Back to events, well, that's pulling up. Scroll down. So Fight Human Trafficking on Tuesday, that was a bill from Ruth Buffalo. Legislative crossover was a big event that we did. And then if you start going back, you see the bill numbers. This was an anti-local control bill. Whoops. And then we make an event. You get your statistics over here. 492 people reached the event, and one person clicked the ticket, 15 responses. Let's see if we can find a busier event. But basically, you can use these events as a way to canvass if you wanted, because you can go to down here and it says 2 went, 4 interested. These are the people. So we know these 4 people already. But when you see some of these other events and there's 30, 40, 100 people going to them, you can start seeing who's interested in what we do and what we stand for, you know. Who's interested, who's watching, who wants to get involved, and things like that. This was an attack on the constitutional amendment. See, we have 42 interested here. So we could start canvassing these people. Maybe they would want to join the league. They could possibly even join the Democratic Party. Stuff like that. So that's what we do for our Facebook. And then we have the Nonpartisan Leaguer. This is our group. And Scott was kind enough to make this graphic for us. We go over here to events again. So we did all the first half session events on our page, and we did all the second half session events on our group, and that was more of like a experiment type thing. When you make an event on a group, it automatically invites every single person that's in that group to that event. If you make an event on a page, you can only invite 50 people. So there's different pros and cons, things like like that. So we also have, I'm not going to pull them up, but the Nonpartisan Leaguer is our media vehicle, and it's composed of myself. Mr. Scott Nodlin runs our website, nplleaguer.com, and our Facebook is linked to that site, along with our Instagram, that's run by Rachel Hall, along with our Twitter, that's run by Catherine Balshenko. We're looking for someone to manage our YouTube, and then Tom DeVilvis, we're going to get him trained in on our Google Calendar. So all these social media things all come together in this website. You can see the Twitter feed, you can see the Facebook feed, and let's see, Instagram should be somewhere on here. Maybe not. Oh, Instagram, still fighting to get Instagram on here. That's okay. And then we have articles that we write that we can share around. So this is just one from the 28th. And when I say we, I mean Scott again. So this was about family leave and oil extraction taxes, it looks like. And we draw up articles and then share them around on our social media. Like I say, we have Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I think those are all our social medias. We do we meet on an app called Line, and that's where we do our conference calls. And that's just as Marvin's idea, and it's worked out fairly well. It's a social media chat, and also available for, like I say, conference calls. How can we do better with help from the party? Without repeating everything that Scott said and Pat said, for me, I'll show you. And it's about standardization. And we'll start on social media. And let's see what happens when we type in MNPL. Okay, so this is what comes up. If you DemNPL or ND District 9 DemNPL, North Dakota Dem-NPL support, North Dakota Democratic NPL, ND Dem-NPL renewable energy. All these names are all different. They're all over the place. So sometimes you got to type in DemNPL. Sometimes you type in Democrats. And then see, look, there's a whole other group of unorganized things. Now I want to show you what I did in the Cannabis Caucus. ND Cannabis. Boom, look at that. All of our groups instantly come up because they all start with the same 3 words. Okay? So we need to standardize our Facebook and our social media in our party, so when people type in DemNPL or Dem-NPL or whatever we decide, everything should pop up. You know, all our stuff should come up. It should all come up in unison. It should look professional, ready to go. You know, I think these are all way out of, they're not related to each other. Worse than that is our state website. Not the website itself, but the contact information for the chairs. As a statewide candidate who made a convention run, when I would travel the state, and I know other statewide candidates share the same problem as I had, somebody from District 10 will ask, how do I get a hold of my leadership in District 10? Okay, I gotta hold on, let me look up the website. Okay, hold on, let's find out what where's District 10 in the regions? Who's your regional rep? 4, Tom DeVilvis. Well, how do we get a hold of Tom? Well, it's Boudin43@gmail. Okay, now let's look at the districts. You got CJP Digital Media at Gmail, L Kosler /2000 at Yahoo. You got K Onstead at resthell.net. I mean, it's way out of there. Everything is so unorganized down here. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but there's only one other district besides mine that did what I did, and I can't remember which one it is. So I'm just going to go to 28 and look at the email for 28. DemNPLChair28@gmail. So when you're traveling around as a state candidate and you're in District 1, District 7, District 12, just type in DemNPLChair12@gmail or at demnpl.com or at Yahoo or at whatever server we decide to use, and that's it. You don't need to know the person. You don't need to know who's in charge. You just need to know how to get a hold of them. And if we standardize our emails, you should be able to tell any person in the entire state where to go. Because first off, they don't know their district. That takes 10 minutes. Then they don't know who their leader is. That takes 10 minutes. And you're not going to have a 20-minute conversation with every single person in the state. It's just not going to happen. You have about 15 seconds to convince people one way or the other. And when it takes 20 minutes to explain to people how to even get in contact with our leaders, that's a problem. And furthermore, none of this is updated. Districts or Region 7 should say vacant election April 12th or April 13th, Ramada and Bismarck. Okay? All these districts that are unfilled should say the same thing. I know for this right here, District 8, Casey Buckman, sorry, I work with Casey Bowman. Casey Buckman, he's no longer the chair. When was District 8 reorg? What was the date? February 23rd, and damn near 2 months ago, and look at, I mean, come on, that's standardization that should easily be done by people who are getting paid. And then lastly, the biggest problem is that, like what's been said before, is the people that are getting paid are not executive or policy members, and we as the party that are executive and policy members have no idea what they're doing, and they have no idea what we're doing, and all they care about is the top ticket, and we've seen it for 2 elections in a row, and it has to stop. And if there's going to be any future in this party, we have to embrace the nonpartisan wing, we have to embrace the progressive movement, we have to understand that when new people come in, not to shun their ideas, to give them a chance, and if we're ever going to grow, we have to be more acceptable. These simple things, standardization, so that we can actually mass communicate when we're traveling around is key, because you can't take 20 minutes for every person to just get the contact info. So those are what I've been doing, a lot of social media stuff, a lot of event organization. What we need to happen is more standardization within the state party, and if we can't even standardize, then nothing will ever change, because we have to know who's in charge and how to contact them. Questions? Comments? All right. Suppose you couldn't see me the whole time, so it's better.
And again, thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
I think you gave us some very good information and advice on how to pull our efforts together in our district.